Hello, this is Blair Stanislao with the Happy Lion Center. Welcome to our podcast, Mystical and Infamous, where we have playful and easy conversations about anything mystical, getting to the heart of all things strange and weird. Join us in a bit of magical tomfoolery, spreading the alchemy of love and light. And now, we invite you to enjoy the show.
2 years ago, when I was diagnosed with the cancer, I just jumped all the hoops I was supposed to jump. I've had wonderful care. I have no doubt it's gone. I am on medication for it, but I also know medication means there's going to be more medication somewhere, no matter how you do it, because there's side effects. Well, this medication, it's anastrozole. The side effect is the thinning of the bones.
Oh,
Well, if I don't take care of this older body, she's just going to suffer. And when she suffers, then I can't do things. So I have to take care of her. And I haven't done a very good job of that through the years, because she's strong and she can plow through almost anything, and she'll put up with most of my behaviors. But it's kind of like, ever since that diagnosis, at that point, my body was saying to me, and she was saying it, if you don't help me here, you won't get to do the things you want to do.
yeah.
You need help. Because when I asked her, I talked about the cancer, I went for hypnotherapy, talked about the cancer, and I said, what do you want to do about it? And it was basically, she shrugged her shoulders and she said, it's on you. I've done everything I can, which was encapsulated,
Yeah.
That's exactly how it was. It was all closed up and everything, but it needed to be out of there. So it was. I mean, I had it removed. And ever since then, I've been thinking about what she said. Well, shortly after that, I decided to do the fasting, the 1 day a week fasting. So that's really all I've done, other than some walking, Tai Chi, that kind of thing, but not with any, what do you want to call?
Gusto, severe gusto, maybe.
Even gusto would be. So this transitioning, I thought, okay, that's enough. It's been 2 years. What do you want to do when you are retired? What? Not so much what do you want to do? How do you want to live?
Yeah.
Because I'm not about the doing. My whole focus at this point in my life, I turn 77 next week. At this point in my life, the whole focus for me is about mindfulness and the work of the mystics. And I want to understand and walk that path, that I believe, is a portion of this path that I'm on. Now, if I'm going to walk that, I've got to have, literally walk it, I've got to have her, be in tandem with her, and the musculature, the bones, and all of that, the nerves and all of that goes together. So eating right is part of, I know what to do.
Yeah, there's a difference between knowing and actually, following through, and
with an intention that it's for the rest of my life. Not this month and maybe next month, but all the months. And so what does that mean? What does it look like? That's a whole new focus for me. And I'm not interested in weight loss. I got rid of that kind of nonsense a long time ago. Not that weight loss is a bad thing, but it's what America has done with weight loss and looking at our bodies with such criticism.
Well, I actually had this conversation with my hairdresser. She had Crohn's. Yeah. She has Crohn's, and she's of course had it for many years.
Serious.
Yeah, it's very serious. And matter of fact, she's had a huge part of her intestines taken out. And she's better because of it. But I don't know how we had this conversation, but eventually I got to the point where I just said, I can't hate myself into thinness. Like, I mean, it would be nice to be thin. It would be, it might be fun, a different experience that I would have or whatever. But every time I think about it, I'm like, but why am I doing this? So that I look better in a pair of pants, or because somebody else feels better about me? Like, I don't actually care what somebody else thinks about what I look like in a pair of pants. I mean, it's not to say that I don't care what I look like, but
Yeah.
that just is not my driving force. It's somewhere on the lines. I know this is going to sound weird, but it's somewhere on the lines of, I was just talking to somebody about channeling, and she was saying she also was learning to channel at the same time with me. And essentially she was kind of describing the information that comes through, and I don't know. I just made a joke to her because for a while there, as she was really doing this, she didn't know she was doing it. It wasn't labeled like that, but that's what she was doing, is channeling. There was a point in which she came and told me that, like, I just wanted to know who it is, and da, 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 and she's going to this great lengths, and I'm thinking, I don't even care who it is that's coming through. But it's like, frankly, when I meet somebody, you could tell me your name 5 times, and unless there was something strange about it, it wouldn't go in my brain. Like, there has to be something else that causes me to remember what this person's name is, because you're not your name. You know what I mean? And I
Wow.
feel the same about the body. And like, it's something we have to live in. Of course, I've had lots of issues where I'm like, okay, now you really have to pay attention. The body is like beating you up, pay attention. But as far as like really identifying with it, like a physical presence, like I want to look a certain way or whatever, I just can't do it. Like, I don't have the stamina in me. And like you said, it's not like it's bad to do that, but I find that there's a lot of negativity associated with that. And of course, I've had like people in my family who are overweight, and like, watch my mother deal with all the emotional ramifications of all of that. I mean, like, everywhere we went, it was like, do I look that fat? Do I look like that person? All the time. It's like,
I know, I've got it in my family too. I've
yeah,
got it.
yeah,
And I don't know when I let go of all of that. It's been since I've been single.
yeah.
But um, any food plan that I have done has educated me further about what I can and can't do because of the gut system I have.
Oh, actually, yeah. So I mean, I'm the Virgo. I don't know where. I guess Virgo's in your sixth house because you're an Aries, but I'm a Virgo rising, and that's like the play of the whole life of a Virgo is digestion, right? And
It must be Buds is.
oh, it is. Trust me, it is. I mean, it's even that's where the shocker is that you're dealing with, right? But it's for me, it's been. I mean, I think I was 2 years old. My mom told me a story about she had taken me to the emergency room, essentially had gastroenteritis, and of course they give me antibiotics, whatever. At 2 years old, and she said I was so lifeless and so sick that as a 2 year old they put an IV in and I didn't even move, which that astounded her. She was kind of surprised that I would just like lay there. I always felt so bad. And I, as an adult, I realized I have IBS, and I look up, it's been a whole evolution. You're old enough to know that like there are conditions that people they don't know anything about. So they speculated about it for a long time, and then eventually actually get some real research. So I've been reading on it for a long, long time, and they didn't know. Bottom line is they don't know, but they did say that actually being born via cesarean is not helpful to the digestion because of the bacteria in the mother's vagina. Then as you come through normally, you get that bacteria. And then breastfeeding, I wasn't breastfed. It was like every possible combination that they're discovering that could affect that I had. So of course I'm going to have that kind of issue. But like your brother, for me, it's like, it's the pain. Honestly, it's the pain as a driving factor.
Motivator.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I'm finally ready to deal with it because I've just lived with it.
Yeah.
And I'm finally ready to deal with it because what I discovered 2 years ago in that diagnosis was my body, that she is entirely separate and distinct from me, that she belongs on the earth. And the only reason I get to be here is because she's willing to be here too. And she needs me in here so she can live.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she doesn't live.
Yeah.
She's gone. And she knows that. So it's a work in tandem.
Yeah.
but I am entirely separate. And she said, I will lay down and stay here. I belong to the earth, but you won't. You will go on, but you won't. But I won't, and I want you to stay.
Oh,
And
it's nice that you got that desire
yeah,
communicated. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, this is a whole new. I really am working on a book, or maybe the book's writing within me about this.
Yeah.
This discovery of the body having all of its own memory and intention and focus for the care of whoever we are in here.
Mm-hmm.
And she needs to be able to express that and make me pay attention. Well, what has she been trying to do all my life? Pain.
Yeah.
I just push past it. All right, I'm going to eat that and I'm not going to feel good for a couple of hours, but I'll be okay by morning, that kind of thing. Well, it's very, very disrespectful and disregarding her.
Well,
And
I have to tell you though, my experience, because I've had major, like, you think your brother's bad? I mean, he's older than me, but I'm probably going to be just like him by the time I get that old. But
they tried, that didn't help.
um, what was I going to say? Through the years, as I learned what works for me or what doesn't, the thing that I find is that, and I think that's the same in terms of development of the human, like as a whole, no matter what, is that, we come into this world, our parents do the best they can, and we are doing the best we can. And if we are put in a situation where something doesn't work for our body, I mean, I'm sure parents of children who are allergic to dye in America, or they're celiac, or they are forced to deal with it right away, but not everybody has it to that degree. So we're all kind of figuring our ways through as we go through this. And a lot of people, I mean, I'll tell you, even with this last major diet change that I did about 2.5 years ago, I think I had experienced before, when I quit eating wheat, this dramatic shift in inflammation where, like, I didn't know I was inflamed. I mean, I knew I had certain, like, I had allergies and, my feet hurt or whatever, but I didn't associate that with inflammation. But when I quit the wheat, I was like, wow, that stuff's a lot better. Like, I don't feel like I have allergies 24/7. And, but until you experience where it's not there,
Yeah,
you don't know that there's any different way of being.
exactly.
Yeah.
You get used to being icky.
Yeah.
You just do. Whether it be the phlegm
Yep.
that collects in the nasal passages or the sinuses or the throat, or whether it's, your lower intestine is just screaming.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is, but when the inflammation is released and relieved, makes such a difference. And that's what I'm hoping this cabbage soup thing to do. I've done this. I learned a lot about vegetarianism in this 4 weeks that I've done it. And now, as I've entered into this cabbage soup, I am really hoping that it will release some of the inflammation to clean out that lower intestine where it's probably not processing very well.
Yeah.
And where probiotics, I don't know what prebiotics are, but probiotics.
Okay, so I don't remember. One of them is like, it's the fiber. Essentially, it's fiber. I mean, I'm sure somebody can correct me, but basically, prebiotic, I think, are essentially fiber, and then probiotics are the bacteria, I think, or something of somewhere along that line.
That kind of makes sense because there's bacteria in the yogurt and things like that.
Yeah.
The gut. But what I'm hoping is for a reset. And then, believe you me, it's keto for about 3 months.
Yeah, well, I tried to do that for a while. I did not do very well at that. Yeah. You like it?
That works for me.
So that's like basically meat and vegetables and low carb vegetables, right? So it's basically a low carb diet. Probably can eat some more carbs than I don't remember how many years and years ago I did a low carb thing.
But I'll probably modify it some and allow other vegetables. But I've been off of sugar since the day after Christmas.
Oh, I bet you feel better for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I have heard that sugar is actually more addictive even than cocaine.
I thought I can't do this anymore. And so I've had all these bits and pieces
Yeah. Yeah.
happening that I believe are an energy direction
Yeah.
me, because I really do want to walk this rest of the road in this contemplative way.
Mhm.
And this inflammation in my body and the not feeling good, I mean, I push past it. I just ignore it. But I can't.
Sometimes you can't. It does. Actually, matter of fact, the channeling course that I'm taking, the teacher spends a lot of time saying that in his experience that, basically it's Michael Sheridan, and I'm doing a dream course with him, but this is part of it, is to learn how to channel. And he's very specific about how to do it. And he has said multiple times, we get told in our dreams
Yeah.
what we need to be eating or not eating, right? And if you don't do what your dreams essentially are telling you, once you can figure out what they're saying, then you'll have problems essentially walking your path. Like you're talking about this, you feel like this is your life path because you're connected and you get the information, right? So if you know your life path, and within your life path, it says, hey, quit eating dairy. That's really hard for a lot of people. I mean, it's even hard for me. I still miss butter, but I don't eat it anymore. But I mean, like, I definitely would have been like, I don't know that, I did say one time, I don't think you can have too much garlic. And then one friend of mine said, oh, yes, you can. And then I finally experienced one time when there was too much garlic. But butter was one of those things I was like, no, there's no such thing as too much butter. Like, what are you talking about? And now I don't eat it. And I feel so much better. And if I eat it, I find, whoa, I can experience a huge shift. But what he's also found is that if you don't make those diet changes, you are essentially, you're too focused on, whether you notice it or not, you're too focused on your body. So you can't open up to listen to the messages that come through.
Well, I am just amazed at what I have, these little pieces put together, what they're doing. And it all started 2 years ago with that diagnosis.
Yeah.
And it's about weight loss or dieting. It's about healthy eating and what's healthy for me to eat.
Yeah, which is all very different. And so the last 2.5 years, I've done, I started with nutritional response testing, which is essentially muscle testing. Okay. And it's Chinese medicine, and you test. So first I went to a naturopath for the first time, and she had a blood test that you do for, I don't know, see what your body wasn't doing well with. Okay. And I was going to get the mercury out of my teeth. And so the doctor said, you need to go to a naturopath because you'll need to chelate. And okay, so I went to a naturopath, never been to one. And she had that test. I'm like, okay, I want to run that test because I've always wanted to know, what is it really that I can eat or not eat? Because I don't know. I'm just like guessing, right? And she ran this test, and it was really hard for me to swallow, in a sense, the results of that test, because it was essentially everything that I ate, the more of it I ate, the higher the inflammation was, or the higher the what do you call it, an immune response to that. And so my conclusion is I probably had what they call now leaky gut. Okay. So I was just completely desperate, but I was also determined to find a solution. So I made it a week or so, and then I'm like calling these nutritional people because I had heard about who they were. And I was like, okay, I've got to do something. I've got to figure out what to eat, because this piece of paper is telling me I can't eat anything I like to eat. I mean, the worst was the tomatoes, the garlic, and the onions. I was like, okay, that's like flavor, So
it's like standard.
yeah, it's like salt or pepper, right? And then so I went to the nutritional person, and she said, okay, so sometimes when you get on the table and we do the test for the foods that you can eat, some of it comes up like the blood test says, but sometimes it doesn't. Okay. And so this time I just decided, whatever, I'm going to do what she says. I'm just going to try it and see, because, not eating tomatoes, garlic, and onions is probably a huge major problem for me. And I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make it. So she told me I could eat some things, but I couldn't eat other things. And so I just went with it, and I did what she said, because I'm watching her I'm in the body, right? She's doing the muscle testing. And I'm seeing fairly clearly my body says no to eggs, like hardcore. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess, that is my body. Maybe I should listen to it. And I had pretty good luck through that time. And I noticed too that like there would be times I would be taking some kind of supplement or something, and before the next time I saw her, I'd be like, I don't think I want to take this thing. And it wasn't like a brain thing, it was more like a feeling where I was like, I think I want to take some more of this and less of that. And every time I went, she'd do the muscle test and it would be dead on. So I was getting the information somehow. And
Did you do this?
hmm?
How long did you do this?
I actually did the nutrition response testing for about 2 years.
Wow. Get a good go.
Yeah, it took a long time. And honestly, it was like, it felt like it was never going to be ending. I found somebody else who does something similar, but it's not quite the same. He still does muscle testing. And what I find too is like, I don't know, I don't know how long it's been, a couple months or whatever, but I've got all these extra supplements I didn't finish. So like I would sometimes go look at it and like, oh, I think I need this one. I'm gonna take that one. Like it's not gonna hurt, right? And I'm not gonna take a ton of it, but I'm just gonna take it. And the same thing would happen. I would go into him and I'm like, okay, well, I was kind of taking this. What do you think? And then he would test me and I was like, oh yeah, you should take that. But it's been really interesting to kind of watch that happen, because it's actually, I'd say the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, for some reason, I felt like I needed to take something to help with my liver. Okay. And it's been a whole evolution. So I've had hypothyroid for more than 20 years. I actually have been on the Western medicine for that, which is like Synthroid, right? For 20 years. So it's been longer because I've not been taking it for 2 years. But, and that's part of the reason I did it for 2 years with hers, because we were kind of trying to fix everything so that I didn't actually have to take that. But, anyways, in the last, 3 or 4 months, I'm getting signals about, hey, check with your liver, take these supplements maybe, or whatever. And so then I start researching sometimes, like I'll get an idea and then I'll look up, oh, okay, what does the liver have to do, in this particular situation? And it turns out, yeah, the liver has a huge impact on thyroid function. And yeah, yeah. And I mean, years and years ago, probably 15 years ago, I was told I had non-alcoholic fatty liver. Like, well, I don't know what that comes from because I'm not doing any, I didn't know. I didn't know anything. But most recently, I actually had, so sometimes I have like random pains, and sometimes they make sense as to why you'd have them and sometimes they don't. Well, this muscle testing stuff is amazing. So the new guy I go to he does this thing called neuro-emotional technique, which is muscle testing.
Yes.
Okay. And
I've done it.
You've done it?
Huh.
Oh, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you have something that you're concerned about. Like, let's say I had a pain in my foot, my right foot. And I'm like, okay, the pain's back. So it will come and go. I'm like, okay, the pain's back in my foot. I don't know what it's from, but I've done the neuroemotional stuff. So I'm like, okay, if the pain is from something emotional, I'm ready to work on it because I'm tired of this crap, basically.
Whereabouts in the foot?
Huh?
Whereabouts is it in the foot?
It's on the last toe, essentially, but not the toe itself, but like in the metatarsals. So up higher in the foot, but it's still in that the last
Bottom.
phalanges or whatever.
Top or bottom?
Top. And matter of fact, I didn't even know. Okay, so I feel it sometimes, and what it felt like is if I was laying and my foot is on the side, it feels like my toes were kind of crunched. Like maybe I had my foot between 2 boards and it was smashed, but it wasn't. I was just laying in the bed. Okay. So this time I noticed it started coming back because it would hurt when I get up and walk. It started coming back and I was like, I don't know what that's about, but whatever. And I actually just picked my foot up to shut the drawer, the bottom drawer of my dresser. And I pushed on the side of my foot and I was like, oh, that really hurts, right? So I knew that I wasn't imagining this, and he tested that. But there was another thing, my elbow also got inflamed.
What did he say about that foot? I'm a reflexologist.
What he said, what the neuroemotional technique is, you do the muscle testing, and if it's emotional, you do the work. And then he puts a magnet on your head and you hold it. And it's some combination of this. I actually need to probably have him on the show, but the neuroemotional thing is, it says, okay, it's connected to, most things are connected to money or relationships, or I don't know what he says, but he says like 3 or 4 things, and you test and it's very clear. Okay, it's this. So this one was, what was it? It was the emotion of, or it was something to do with frustration dealing with immaturity with a person. Okay. So he does the test and he's like, okay, there's a female in your life right now who's causing you frustration related to this. So put that in a sentence. And so I put it in a sentence. Okay, we're going to test for an original event. And then you test. And I'm like, first, you already know, usually. You're like, okay, I know where it comes from. Or if you don't, they'll test for the age or whatever. And so then once you figure that out, you put the magnet wherever he tells you to put the magnet. And then he goes on the meridian. Okay. And the first time he did this, I didn't know what he was doing, but the first time he did it, I could see that he was about to push on my leg, on my thigh. And right, like literally a second and a half before he did that, I thought, oh, I don't think I've ever told anybody it kind of hurts there. I didn't say anything. I just let him do what he was going to do. So he just pushes on this meridian, and it's a very good physical representation of feeling energy shift, because when he pushes and it's agitated or something's bothering with it, right? It hurts. That's the bottom line. He pushes and it hurts. Okay. So for a long time, I thought he was like pushing hard and like, he would let up. No, he doesn't. He just pushes a normal amount, and then the energy shifts and you can feel it go. And so sometimes, it'll have me kind of focus on the emotion that's there. And so the magnet is helping to kind of reset the brain waves.
It would, yes.
Yeah. And then you're causing that particular part of your brain to be activated because you're activating pain, right? And so you're trying to think about whatever. And the stuff works. It really works. So this last time I went, it was on the gallbladder and the liver meridian. So I'd already been taking liver supplements, right? Thinking that I needed to do that, not on the direction of anybody, and then this happens. And then I have this it was an emotional thing. So I was like, okay, I get this emotion. I know what this comes from. And then we went on a trip, and then I got triggered like you wouldn't believe. Like I haven't had a trigger like that in over 10 years.
Wow.
And it was really strong. And the more I think about it, I'm like, this is essentially what I've been asking for. Like I keep asking, what is it? What is it? What is it? Like, what do I need to know? And here it is coming at me with like a car, and I'm walking on the street and the car is going to run into me. It's like that loud. Right. And even so much so that on the way here, right before we started talking, so the trigger that came up came from my childhood family trips in a car with my older sister, my grandmother, my little sister, and my mother. Okay.
Okay. A lot of women.
Yep. So the experience that I had was people who were not nice, not being told, you're not being nice, stop being that way. But everybody was like dancing around them. If you weren't the person acting like that, everybody else was tiptoeing to try and avoid whatever ramifications they were going to give, right?
Yeah.
So, but I wasn't one of those. So I was the one I wasn't necessarily trying to tiptoe, but I was young and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to say something about this. Well, then my mother didn't want to deal with them. So we would find a way to live with them like that. And that's what got triggered. But it was like, I was in the car with a grandmother and children, and was like, okay, I'm playing a different role, but it's the same thing. Right. So got triggered pretty hard. Had lots of reactions. I actually just wrote a blog on this today, but eventually I figure out, okay, so I finally figured, I think, so it causes anger within me. Well, anger is housed, do you know where?
In the liver.
In the liver. So not surprising that the liver is testing for help, and then also that the meridians are blocked or whatever, and he's working on that. And not surprising at all. And then I don't know, through all of this, I'm like, okay, I think it's that emotional experience that I had as a child that really kicked off this lack or this malfunctioning thyroid. So we're talking about young.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm convinced that, and I haven't shared that with a whole lot of people, but I'm convinced that has a huge impact on the thyroid, because You
Yeah.
can't talk. Like if I didn't feel like I could say anything that was heard, right? Well, that's thyroid, that's your throat chakra, and there's anger involved. Yeah, so even to that degree. And then over coming over here today, I thought, you know what? As a child, every single time we went on a trip, I always got sick.
Oh, sure. Why not? Because the other doesn't work.
Well, and
The,
it was also, even when I met my first husband, we went to Switzerland. So long trip, long flight, right? I had been on a plane a couple of times, but I wound up throwing up on this plane ride, which was an international plane. It was horrible. It was like,
it was
I hate throwing up. It was just a horrible experience. I do it like in the seat.
hours.
It was horrible. And as you know, you get dehydrated and just feel terrible. But
No fun.
no, even as an adult, here I am still getting sick. It's so much so that now when I travel, if I don't get sick, I'm like, ooh, something's good because I'm not sick, And it became a joke with us as a family. Is like, well, we know Blair's going to get sick on the trip, but
Yeah.
it's amazing how that all kind of comes out and it is your body talking to you, but it's hard to know.
I know, but it's learning its language.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable what we have for cues and clues and language that isn't English. And it's I'm in here and I just disregard her, and she doesn't have any other way to get through to me except through some form of dis-ease.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's the only way she can reach me. Yeah, I'm going to pay attention then.
Well, that's the ideas behind so Julie Cannon's it's not It's Julie Cannon's book, but Dolores Cannon was her mother, and she's the one who did the hypnosis stuff, the
Oh, yeah.
quantum healing hypnosis, which is what I started in, right? So her daughter was a nurse, and she wrote this book called Soul Speak, which is very similar to Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. Very
Yeah.
similar. And so she just had her different way of describing it, but essentially that's what the messages have been across the board from both her mother's sessions and also Julia's sessions, and I'm sure other people, where essentially the part of the body, whatever function it does, that's the area in your life that you're looking at. So like if you've got vision problems, and it's it has to do with you being willing to see what's going out there, right? Or if
Yeah.
you have foot problems, it has to do with what path you're walking, right? Like what direction are you going in life, that kind of thing.
Yes. And when you're going to deal with that little toe and that area, you're going to deal with how do you hear life.
Mm-hmm. Why do you say that? Is that reflexology?
Mhm.
What does it say?
Well, in the toes are all about the head.
Okay.
So anything that's going on in the head, the big toe is your whole head.
Mm.
Okay. And in it are the zones. There's 10 zones. And if this area is coming down the nose in that area, if it would be your spinal area. Okay. So you have your right side and left side. And so the big toe is always about the head. I mean, the whole head and everything in there, everything.
Mm.
A lot of brain, and there's a lot of tissue, and there's bone, and there's nerves, and all of this that are there. But there's all that emotion that's registered there and given language to it. But your second two toes, right next to the big toe, those are going to deal with the eye area all the way through. Okay. So that's, just coming.
This coordinates with the meridians
Well, no.
okay.
I mean, you could say that in that these are imaginary lines. The meridians aren't so imaginary. These are just more or less setting it up so you kind of know where you are dealing with the toxins in the body, and that anywhere along that zone, that they're called zones rather than meridians, anywhere along that zone can be a blockage. And in that blockage, if you can relieve that, and that's what I believe I do with reflexology, I relieve any of that congestion, then it can flow freer to whatever is is in the, I mean, it might actually be in the eye, the physical issue might be in the eye, but it could be anywhere along that zone.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And so it might get stuck in the gut. It might get stuck in the knee. I mean, it could be anywhere coming through. And then your last two toes deal with your hearing. So it'd be on the outside of your eyes and then the outside of your ears. So that's why I'd say, and then on being that it's on the right side, you said?
It's on the right foot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There, in Chinese medicine, that's your masculine side.
Mm-hmm.
There's those things to connect with it too.
Oh yeah. I've had it was a lady who does Reiki here. I went to her. When I first got up here, I went to her. And she was easy to access and she's good at what she does. But I've had shoulder issues in my right shoulder. I played volleyball. But before I even came up here, I had surgery on it for a torn labrum, which I didn't know essentially was, I essentially had a chronic injury, something from overuse.
Sure.
I've since had an acute injury that's like just amazing, the difference when you've been dealing with chronic pain for so long, and then you have this really intense injury that actually feels a little bit worse than the chronic injury. And you're like, oh, it's like really depressing because you're like, I don't know if I can handle this, But then you go through the process and it's like, holy cow, my shoulder is better than it's ever been because you have that short time frame for it being acute. Anyway, she said that same thing too. She was like, but you got so many things wrong with you. It's like, I can only take so much. Don't tell me like, you got a problem with your father. You got a problem with your husband. You got a problem with this. You got a problem. Like, okay, well, like, at what point can I just be?
And I think like talking about these things that I'm doing with her, with my body. First, I paid attention because it was a drastic diagnosis.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And then I decide that I will fast. And then I decide that I'll leave sugar behind. And then I'll try this vegetarian. Oh, well, and before that it was keto. And whatever I've found that's effective. In every single one of these little pieces of the journey, I've been helped. And that's where I need to go. I need to go. Because I do know that in those organs, there is all manner of discussion going on in my body I know nothing about, because I like to be in denial there.
Well, I think we teach essentially as humans. I kind of think that maybe Americans are worse, but I don't know because I'm not outside of American, right? But I do think that at least our culture teaches us to kind of like blow it off. Like, okay, that's not a big deal. Just ignore it. It's fine. It'll go away. Right. I mean, my mother's answer was either ignore it or pop a pill. Right.
Yeah, there you go.
And so like with my kids, given my digestion and all the work that I've done, I'm like, okay, let's really think about that. Why does it feel that way? What can you modify that would help you to feel better? And so, I really don't push pills on my kids, but sometimes you just have an issue. Like I've got this terrible headache that I've tried all these different things to do and it's not working. Well, go ahead and take the pill because you need to sleep and that's going to make it work.
And the body needs to be assisted.
Yeah.
And that's a piece of it too. It's paying attention to what he or she needs.
Yeah. I was actually listening to, on the way back on our trip, I was listening to this book on channeling. This person is a doctor of noetic sciences. I don't really know what that is. It sounds really interesting though. But
I've read a little on the noetic.
Okay.
I begin to get it.
Yeah. So anyways, this lady is one of those things, and in her book she's quite articulate. And I was actually like falling asleep listening to this. And I woke up and found myself laughing because she talks about essentially sensing energy, which we've talked a lot about, but sensing it in the body, physically in the body. And the reason I was laughing is because my daughter I would describe her as very sensitive. She's very in tune with her body and the world. So like if somebody's yelling, she doesn't want to be there. Unless it's a game that she's playing, that's just not her thing. She just up and leaves and has always been that way. And, frankly, for a lot of people who are not they're not that way, sometimes it's hard. I mean, I wasn't as sensitive as she was, but just listening to that stuff, it just cracks me up because all the things that she was listing that could happen, I'm laughing at it because I experienced those things. And, my husband he's able to hear me say like, oh, this hurts. Oh, like it hurts for 30 seconds. And so I might say something and, he's like, you're falling apart. You're younger than me and you're completely falling apart. You're not going to be old. You're not going to make it.
You're
But
not going to get there.
I think it's really just me being sensitive, being aware of it. I don't think it's not like, okay, here's this condition where I got this, it's going to be a disease. The thing in my foot, there's literally nobody who would be able to diagnose that.
Yeah.
Because even the doctor tested it. He's like, there's nothing wrong with your foot. You go put in an x-ray, there's nothing wrong with your foot. Well, I'm telling you that it hurts. I know that it hurts. I'm not imagining this,
Right. But that hurt comes and goes.
Yeah,
so
right.
Triggering it
Yes.
emotionally to get it to respond to you, because that's how your body says, I'm hurting. Pay attention to me.
Yeah.
Help me here. Because that's what our bodies are doing. They work for us 24/7 all the time, and they never complain. But when they do, they expect us to help them. And I've been a gym dandy at I got other things to do. Excuse me, there's no time for this.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is kind of what our culture does. I mean, like, even if you look up certain conditions, right? Like,
yeah,
the most recent thing I looked up was perimenopause or something to that effect, right? And you look at the list of stuff and it's like, are you kidding me?
Who has time for this?
Well, right, exactly. Who has time for that? But like, this is why our society says, oh, I'm just getting old. Like, I just have to deal with my body falling apart. No, you don't.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No way. And that's where I'm at, is no way.
Yeah. Well, that's the way I feel too. I mean, like, I just feel like, it doesn't actually have to be that way, especially since I've had a glimpse of the diet change making such a difference. I know that life doesn't actually have to be the way that we kind of accept it to be.
No, nor should we.
Yeah.
Now, I know a few people whose health, physical health, and there's something with certain bodies that probably come into this world and need to deal with their journey through a body that isn't physically strong.
Yeah.
That's different than the emotional makeup. Not that the emotional, it doesn't happen too. It does. But they're going to respond differently in their bodies than mine has had to. I mean, I've had a lot of procedures and surgeries. They're all repair until 2 years ago. That one was a healing that needed.
Well, like you said, you have a strong, essentially, I forgot what they call that.
I don't know. I call it peasant.
What?
I call it peasant.
Oh, hardworking. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been that isn't something I did. I'm right now appreciating her. Never did. Never thought about it. Go get it repaired. Go take care of it. But I never thought about that. What that was doing to my body.
Yeah.
Well, she just needed an assistance. Well, I gave it to her. We got it done. Move on. Don't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
When I look at that now, there's an appreciation and a sincerity in that was never there before. Wrong one.
I think my mother was one of those people, like you say, just like, okay, we'll just deal with it. Partially because she didn't want to deal with what the doctors were telling her, which was for her experience was, you're overweight. All of your problems are because you're overweight. And I've heard other people say this too. Like, I had a friend who I worked with and she's overweight, but she broke her foot and she broke a bone in her foot getting up off the floor. Now, she's not young. Okay. But she broke it. She felt it pop and thought, oh, I don't know. She didn't think about anything, but eventually she had to go get it put in a cast or something. Right. And she actually said that. She verbalized that to me. She was like, I figured they would just tell me because I was fat. That's been the experience of a lot of people.
Themselves.
Yep.
Women saying that to themselves.
Yep.
That's horrible.
It is. That's a horrible part of our medical system, what they do to people. I'm sure it happens to men too. But what I noticed as my mother aged is essentially she wasn't really willing to listen to anything anymore. Like she had totally shut down in terms of listening to what a doctor, she didn't care what a doctor said. She just wanted to be able to survive and feel okay. And that was it. That's all she cared about. But what I have noticed is that the people who age better, meaning they have a better experience, both physically, mentally, emotionally, is they essentially come to terms with what within their body needs attention, and also coming to terms with how that affects your life. Like you're talking about somebody who's got a handicap or they've got a physical weakness, right? They have to learn how to live life in a different way. It doesn't mean that it's less, it's just different.
I have someone that I'm spending some time with now whose body is extremely compromised
Mm-hmm.
and believe that she has spent her whole life resenting her body, being unkind to it. And it just can't pull it up. It just can't seem to support her in the way she would like to be. And because she's older now, she's having to give it the attention.
Yeah.
And she's coming to terms with a lot of those emotions that have gone into doing harm to her body.
Right.
And she's recognizing it and trying to find a way to her body to bring some help. But in the process there, she is dealing with a body that doesn't trust her.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically her body just is shutting down in places because the body wasn't listened to and the body was in need.
Mm-hmm.
And she's recognizing that in herself. But what a long road there is
She's
ahead of her.
recognizing that she has had messages for a long time that she didn't respond. Interesting. So I actually had, I don't know if he's going to be a client because he's called me 3, if not 4 times. And matter of fact, his wife messaged me, I think almost over a year ago about getting hypnosis. And so he made an appointment. He's got Parkinson's, but he made an appointment and he told me some stuff. And then he called back a couple of days later and went to talk some more. And I actually just talked to him yesterday, and he admitted he's 80. Okay. But he admitted, so he's read some of Dolores's books and he understands this stuff intellectually.
Sure.
But I think he's gotten to the point where he's like, okay, like, what if I get something in my hypnosis session that basically scares me? Or, what if it's not going to help? And of course, I talked to him about like, how does it work? And, essentially, you're not going to get anything that's going to scare you to death because it's your higher self telling you that, right? I'm not going to show you something you can't handle, but also that it does, in fact, work. And that you really only requirement is that you want to do that. We'll see if it happens. He's scheduled for Friday. So, yeah.
I mean, there's all of those hoops for that person to jump.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yes.
we can do is assist them in their process if they're ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's amazing. I am, like I said, the book is writing within me on, in my case, her and she, that being me.
Yeah.
What I've always identified with being just me. It's bigger than that. It's more important than that. It's really more of the essence of what life really is here on this planet than I ever could appreciate before.
Yeah. Well, that sounds exciting.
I think it's fun. So in the meantime, I've got all these little jobs I've hopped through. And this is for the physical part. The emotional is yet to come.
That's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, but it's going to happen because this journey that I see ahead of me is this mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that's taking me, but it's what I've been prepared to do. It's prepared to follow, and we'll see.
That's exciting, and I'll tell you that especially in the last couple of weeks, like I definitely feel like I have this, I don't know if the word is reserve, but like this, I'm here to do this work. I'm going to figure it out. Like there's points of desperation that I've had with the thyroid where I'm just like, I really want to fix this. I don't know what to do. I kind of feel defeated. And then it's like, am I going to have to go back on the pill? Like the Western medicine pill? Because it makes it slightly better. Doesn't heal it. Doesn't actually really make it better, but it makes it slightly better. And then that passes and I'm able to go on to the next thing. But there are moments where it's just like, whew, I don't even know if I can do this. But
Yes.
it's hard.
Do I even want to?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It is hard. But then when I stop and think about what else do I have to do in this life, I realize, oh, this might be one of the biggest challenges I have that
Yeah.
I need to walk. Because if I complete this part of the journey, well, I won't be having to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah, which is exciting. It's highly motivating.
Send inquiries, suggestions for new discussion topics, and comments to podcast@happylioncenter.com. That's podcast@happylioncenter.com. If you found this content enjoyable or helpful, please comment, like, share, and download. Donations are appreciated and help us to produce more of similar content. Consider making a contribution at the links in the description box. Your support is greatly appreciated. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Happy Lion Center and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything. None of the content provided should be considered a substitute for legal, financial, medical, psychiatric advice or as care from a certified professional.